The government's top lawyer is reportedly going to block a private prosecution of former Prime Minister Tony Blair. The case has been brought over the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Let's go live to Westminster and to our political correspondent Tamara Cohen. Tamara, very good afternoon to you. Why is this happening?
Well, this is a case that's going to be watched very carefully. It's being brought by a former Iraqi general, General Rehat, and he wants to bring criminal charges against Tony Blair and other senior ministers from that time, Jack Straw, who was the Foreign Secretary, and Lord Goldsmith. And he wants to take them to court essentially over the Iraq war and what we've found out since the Chilcot inquiry report came out last summer into some of the failings during the run-up to the war. Now, he's got a legal team assembled, and what we understand from reports in The Guardian today is that the government, and specifically the Attorney General, Jeremy Wright, are trying to have this case thrown out. They don't want it to go ahead. What The Guardian have learnt is that Jeremy Wright has asked to attend some of the hearings when they go ahead and doesn't believe it's going to work out. Essentially, he believes it's a hopeless case because the charge they're trying to pin on Tony Blair, which is called aggression, he doesn't believe will stand up in UK law. So a little bit of a row going on there. This is what we got from a spokesman in the Attorney General's office, conceding that he had tried to intervene, but not saying that he'd had it thrown out. This is what the statement says. It's not unusual for the Attorney General to intervene in cases in order to represent the public interest. He has sought to intervene in this case because it raises issues about the scope of the criminal law. Now, we also spoke to General Rehat's lawyers this morning, and they sound pretty confident. They began this case a few months ago and were told that it wouldn't work out, that Tony Blair would have immunity from prosecution. He's being represented by Michael Mansfield QC, a very prominent lawyer. They believe they can have a fresh hearing and they can potentially take this case all the way to the Supreme Court. And you'll remember when the Chilcot inquiry report came out last summer, some of the families of the soldiers who died in the conflict were talking about bringing criminal charges against Tony Blair. I think they'll be watching this case very carefully.
The point of principle tomorrow, though, is an important one. You can see why the government feels it needs to do something. The idea that a former Prime Minister on a matter of policy can be brought before the courts.
Yes, what our understanding is from these documents the newspaper have seen is that they believe that it sets the wrong precedent, and also it could bring up some material which is covered by the Official Secrets Act, that would be heard in open court. So those seem to be the objections that Jeremy Wright is bringing, and he wants to come to these hearings and make that case. Also, that this crime, a crime of aggression, this is a crime in international law when it's believed that someone has violated the United Nations Charter. That, he says, is not a crime in British law, and it should be, he thinks, Parliament who makes these decisions rather than the court. So there's a lot of different principles at stake here, but certainly Jeremy Wright's office suggesting that he has made some intervention.
Thanks, Tamara. A fully